Good evening, everyone. We have completed the second day of MARUF online meeting, and this session is organized as under name of YoundTable. We're going to have young people at the college age, at the university age, and we're going to have a conversation on the issues that have been covered in the sessions throughout the day. So from the youth perspective, how does the forum look? Is the forum relevant to the demands of the youth, and how can it be improved in line with the demands of young people? These are the issues that we follow. In this session, I believe in this regard, I believe this session is special. Regarding the participation after the sessions of the day were completed, we're going to be discussing them. You know, a lot of young people attended those sessions. They have taken down a lot of notes, and we're kind of creating a feedback on the sessions. And it is we're going to have more than 20 people, and then I'm going to be politely asking when I ask the questions, please start answering with raising your hands. In brief, in these young tables, we obtain the reflections of youth on the sessions that were held today, how relevant they are, to what extent they respond to the needs and demands of the youth, and we also would like to get the criticism of young people. I mean, if it was them who organized this conference, what would they make differently? So I'd like to give the floor upon saying this now. So it was a very long day, and we had a lot of sessions under different titles. We had, let me just give you the exact number. We had over 40 sessions today, and we had these sessions in parallel with each other, and that provided a lot of diversity. We may not be able to cover all the sessions in this limited time, but we'll do our best. So without further say, I'd like to give the floor to you, but let me ask, I want to see who wants to speak now. Raise your hands, please, if you want to speak. If you want to speak, please raise your hand. We can start with Muhammad Ramadan. Hello, Muhammad. Can you hear us?
Okay,
everyone, my name is Muhammad from Indonesia. I'm currently a bachelor student at University, majoring in political science and international relations. The sessions I attended was refugees unmuted, meaningful participations in public life, I was extremely enlightened during the sessions because of history. So basically, the sessions discussed self-representations and also the participation of refugee in the public forum. It is hard to witness how the refugees struggle during the integrations and inclusions process in local community. Then in the worst case scenario, most of them are irregular, unregistered refugees, meaning they would have a lot of barriers and obstacles in terms of bureaucracy and administrations in the host country. Furthermore, it will be a vicious circle because, for instance, when they're registered to school, they will be deemed as undocumented students. Later on, they would also have a block to continue their career and educational degree in the future. Thus, it is fundamental to become an ally. There are at least two meaningful solutions to address this issue. First, strengthen the international refugee response system, and second, simplify the international protections process. It is challenging yet possible work because inclusion is expensive, time-consuming, and it is an intergenerational project. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Muhammed. Teşekkürler Muhammed.
Thank you, Mohammed. That was a good feedback on the session about refugees. Another hand from Gökçe Küçük. Yesterday we had 3 questions and we had divided the time into 3 across these questions. You know, she asked the first question, you know, what was the most interesting part of the first session and how relevant that was the second session, and what would you make differently was the third question. So in the first 15 minutes, we're covering the first question. I asked the questions kind of combined together, but yes, the way you suggest could be the better way to go. All right, let's start with Gökçe. In the sessions that you followed today, what was most interesting? So let me start this way. Then today it was an intense program. We had great speakers. I had planned to attend the sessions on urban resilience, but the surprise of the day was Manage Like a Woman. That was the title of the session that surprised me. This was on participation of women and young professionals in the administration, so it was basically inclusive. And I'd like to open a parenthesis here, especially a Polish municipality from Poland. You know, whatever the reason, they were running a campaign against domestic violence. You know, thinking about that, problematizing this is very important in terms of providing service and diversifying the service and taking relevant action. Because of that, I'd like to thank once again to the participants of that session. You touched upon a beautiful issue. Yes, you know, in these forums, you would have surprises. You plan to attend certain sessions, but you find yourself attending others. I'd like to see more hands. So, what was the most interesting thing for you in the sessions that you attended? Let's move on with Muhammad Irfan. And then we're going to move on with Berke. Hello, Professor. I'm sorry, I cannot turn my camera on because my connection is slow. I attended 3 sessions today. One of them was about rethinking the infrastructure in a holistic perspective, and the other ones were about smart cities. And the third one was examples about digitalization. But the most interesting thing for me was rethinking the infrastructure.
Infrastructure, green infrastructure, and then how to make an urban infrastructure ulaşım, su, atık enerji ve iletişim hakkında da konuşurken daha net oluyorum benim. Sonra SDGs ve Green Grey Human Infrastructure'da
So they touched upon the green and gray infrastructure then, and then they expanded on projects on hydrogen energy. So this session focuses on young people. I'd like to say one thing. The speaker switched to English. I'm switching to Turkish.
beneficial for me hocam. Çok teşekkür ederim.
Teşekkür ederiz Muhammed. Gayet güzel. Muhammed bugün altyapı.
Thank you, Mohammed. Very beautiful. Berke, I saw your hand. Berkay, I'm sorry, Berkay. Hello. I'm Berkay Çakır. I'm a senior student at Urban Planning Department at Çankaya University. Professor Haluk Gerçek and Professor Johannes Müller, they talked about the governance in smart cities. And they both mentioned data collection methods, and Professor Gerçek mentioned that the traditional methods of data collection is less than enough. What I learned from all these discussions is, that also a response to the question that what would you make differently? So the services that the municipalities provide, well, the municipalities come to the fore with the political identity that they have. Management of data should be separated from politics. I have that question just on my mind. I don't know where to ask. All right. We speak up here. Whoever is in charge, well, they would take that into account. The issue of smart cities, once it's not human-centric, it bears problems. They should, by logic, they should serve the population of the cities, and Berkay basically touched upon that issue. Thank you, Berkay. Sena Seci seems to be raising hand. Are you with us, Sena? Yes, Professor. Hello. Tell us what was the most interesting thing for you. I attended There is No Place for Mistakes and Resilient Cities. I'm a student of urban planning, by the way, and we have studied a lot on that issue throughout our education. I was expecting something like that, but Professor Mehmet Tunay Aydınoğlu, approached the issue from a different angle, and he talked about the issue of education. We should build cities that are resilient to earthquakes and other disasters, but at the beginning of that, at the very starting point, we have a lot of people without quality education dealing with these issues. So, you know, the buildings do not always follow the earthquake regulations, and the legal regulations don't have enough limitations on that. So this was a different perspective, and in the same session, there was Professor Miktat Kadıoğlu. He talked about that. Yes, we have disasters, we have drought, we have floods, but we are using climate change as a barrier between us and the disasters. Well, it's not just about the climate change, that triggers all these things. We have a lot of wrong policies. We have a lot of wrong urbanizations. We have wrong settlements, for example, in the basins. So the floods do not happen just because of the climate change. The same goes for the droughts. So this is basically being used to cover up our wrongdoings. All right, that's quite good. So we touched upon the issue of disaster. Thank you very much. I'd like to listen to more people. Can we see hands? We have completed the first 15 minutes. If you like, we can move on with the second question. Yes, but I'd like to listen to one more person. I'm going to allocate 10 minutes to the last question. We can have a couple more people. Let's give the floor to Şevval and Hatice Nur, and with this Selim, we're going to move on with the second question. Şevval, are you with us? Yes. We can hear you. If you can, turn on your camera. If not, no problem. Please introduce yourself. I'm Şevval Aksoy. I graduated from Urban Planning Department this year. I attended this program and I benefited a lot from it. The society knows best and innovative methods in the design of space. That was the session that I attended. Youth is prioritized here because we have a qualified young team. The whole team is young, and the people who are actively involved in the project, they are young as well. Your voice broke up at the beginning. Which projects did you mention? There's a team called EcoCollect, and the projects that they create, they are basically speaking to everyone, not just to the youth. They said they develop point practices, and they have had another project for children, and yet another one on women's position in mass transportation. So with this approach, they target different groups in the society. Other than that, they tried a project in Gökçeada, and they received support from Japan regarding the design. They gave active role to children. They asked the dreams of children, and Another issue is in Istanbul Beşiktaş Park, there is the project of pop-up park, and regarding that, face-to-face surveys have been conducted. You know, what did you like? How did you like? Is it safe, this pop-up park? So they basically obtained feedback from the people on their project, and they received over 80% positive feedback. And other than that, well, that's all I have to say. Thank you. Best practices, yes, it was good. I listened to that. I followed that as well. You touched upon some other points that are important as well. Let's move on with Hatice Nur Gümüş. Let's have the last contribution to the first question. Hello. I'm Hatice Nur Gümüş. I graduated this year from the Urban Planning Department of Istanbul Technical University, and I'm going to start my master's on the same field. What attracted my attention the most, that was the PhD showcase. You know, as in MARUF19, it attracted my attention as well. And let me just move into the answer to third question. You know, this issue kind of involves youth significantly, and we can basically, through these theses, we can see where the academic interest is headed. What would I make differently? Let me just provide a brief answer to that. That was a program for PhD for PhD studies. If we can get the same for master studies, we can have different solutions. PhD showcase was very good. Master's showcase is also being considered, but you know, there are logistical issues perhaps. Maybe in the coming MARUFs we can have master students present their studies. And all right, let's move on with the second question.
In the sessions that you have viewed, how inclusive are they for the youth? Let's get some quick answers for this question. 1 minute each. Can we raise hands who would like to answer this question? Yes, for the sessions, how inclusive were the sessions for the youth? Who would like to talk about it? All right, Hande Nur. Hello, can you hear me? Yes, we can. I joined 3 sessions today, and the first one was releasing the potential and the youth projects of local governments. And they have talked about the projects the municipalities were doing for the youth, and they were sharing their good examples. Of course, what they were talking about included youth, of course, but for the I think I am going to also transition into the last question as well, but in that session, well, they were explaining the good examples. I would also like to see some people who are benefiting from these projects and some people who show the examples. I would have liked to hear younger people, youth, who have participated in those projects, who have benefited from those projects. Well, they were talking about their services and social help. What I didn't hear is that if the youth has participated in these projects, did they join the decision-making process? They have not talked about that point. Of course, decision-making process the Stuttgart municipality and Nilüfer municipality had examples for participation, but other ones didn't show or talked about if the youth were included in decision making in those projects. Of course, for using the public funding, including the youth for the decision making process of these projects would be a lot more helpful, is what I think. Of course, also for this session as well, I want to say one thing. People are constantly using ownership language, like our children, our youth, but we are living in these cities. You exist as the adults. We are not coming and using a possession language like our children or our youth is disturbing for me, because nobody owns anybody and we are individuals and we are trying to live. That's what I wanted to say. All right, thank you, Handener. Of course, we also said our old people in Turkish as well. Of course, we are taking notes for that. Of course, hearing the youth is, of course, very important, and showing these ideas into presentation is very important. Selin had raised her hand as well. Let's hear from her as well. Selin, are you here? Selin, can you hear me? Are you here? Can you hear me? Yes, we can now. All right, thank you. I'm sorry I made you wait. Now we are after the second question, and we're going to talk about how inclusive the session is today. I am Selin, coming from Çanakkale 19th of March University in urban planning, and I've joined 4 sessions and I've tried to follow as much as I can. I think it was a very important session. Immigrant innovatives and entrepreneurs was the session that I've followed, and they also talked about the immigrant youth and their application and place in the cities. They also talked about how they are supporting the immigrant youth and also all the youth, as we are the youth, and it was positive for me, and I thought this will also affect my future. The founder of Salt and Sugar, an immigrant woman, and she started with a very small place, and they were and she talked about how she got support from NGOs and the social projects from local governments. Our Syrian friends and our immigrants and the women entrepreneurs are very much supported. It felt me feel supported. Thank you very much. Sir, your microphone is closed. I couldn't open the microphone. Sorry about it. Thank you very much, Selin. Of course, there are a lot of sessions for during the entirety of the forum. There are a lot of messages, both for entrepreneurship and for immigrant support. And Betül had raised her hand as well. Let's continue with Betül. Yes, Betül. Hello. I am Betül Solsay. I'm a graduate of sociology and political science, and I work at an NGO right now. And I agree with Hande Nur, and I think there's a separatist point of view in the problem. I think Mr. Berkay gave an example of an elevator, and another woman gave an example of a solar panel and wind generators, and all the process of these projects are affecting youth as well. If we are university students or young professionals, so from the immigrant problems to climate crisis, all of these are affecting us organically. How much children are affected, we are as much as also affected. So the title of a session, I don't think they should focus on the youth unless it is the session is focusing on the youth and a subject is focusing on the youth. But these problems are global, and most of the sessions had general titles, and these titles, I don't think they have to have a special attention to the youth. This is a good view as well. This attention and sensitivity for youth is also is because of their future, and you're going to be the future, so we also want to prepare you, but I would like to save that as well. Mehmet Avcı has raised his hand. Let's listen to him as well. Then I have to go to 3 quickly. Yes, Mehmet. I cannot hear Mehmet. You are not muted, but I cannot hear you. I think there's a technical problem. Mehmet, let's wait and you try to solve that problem. Do we have anybody else for the second questions? We have listened to Handenur, I guess. She's raising her hand again, but is there anybody else? We would like to hear from everybody. Anybody who would like to answer the third question? Then I'm transitioning to the third question. Mehmet, if we could connect you, you can also share your answer if you are able to solve your problem. Maz Ahmet has raised his hand, and Rümeysanur also. Let's start with Maz. Go ahead, Maz. The question is, if it were you, what would you do differently in the sessions today? Is there a problem? Can we unmute Maz? Hello, I am Maz Ahmet. I am in Yıldız Teknik University and I am doing my master's on city planning. I want to quickly answer the second question. Today, especially in the sessions that I participated in, 99% were about the youth. And youth and the youth's energy was focused, and a lot of people were focusing on that and giving attention to that, all the speakers. I think this was great, and I feel like we have the responsibility at this point, and we will try to do whatever we can, and we will try to participate from local governments to global problems and solutions have to be achieved all together. We have to work and collaborate for this. For the third question, I think the local green policies has to be rethought with data. And I joined that during the session about that. And I think it was very effective and inspiring session. It was very informative as well. But I think for global warming and climate change and similar global problems, solutions, if we were to search a solution for these problems, I think we have to have speakers from a lot of different areas. If we were to able to do that, it would be better, because in this situation at this point in Turkey and Latin America and Colombia and Austria from Europe had this representation, but for the South Asia, Africa, or different geographies, didn't have any speakers. If we were to also try to include them, it would be a lot more informative and it will be a lot more efficient, I think. I think we would also like to learn their point of view as well. It will be better. Thank you very much, Maz. We have a very limited time at this point, and Rümeysa, you have 1 minute quickly. Let's listen to you as well. Whichever question you would like to answer. But the question for us right now is, what would you do differently? Thank you, sir. And I would like to answer the third question. I joined the session about old people, and it was very effective, both on the academic side, both on the NGOs and governmental collaborations. They talked a lot about a lot of issues, but of course, as Ma said, there was a geographical limit, and there was somebody joining from England, but because they were only one person and they were asking an example from England, it wasn't very efficient because there's only one person. When we are trying to cover Turkey a lot, then the international side is lacking. So instead of having one person from England, instead of that, maybe having somebody from NGOs in England, somebody from the municipalities will be able to talk about it in a better manner, would have more information. Mehmet, are you there? If you are able to speak, we have 1 minute, then we will... Can you hear me now? Yes, go ahead, Mehmet. Quickly, I am starting quickly. I would like to talk about, as Professor Tarkan talked about, for the strategical planning, they want to see youth as a subject, and in bringing the sport directly to the youth is a good idea, and integration and good management approaches was another session I joined. And if I were in that session, I wouldn't have 8 male participants in that session. I would definitely try to mix it up. And another session, Mehmet, you have to be quick about for the good approaches and participation, having a corporate point of view and including youth in that manner. I like to thank them for including the youth. All right, I think we don't have enough time to let Zeynep speak today. They are telling me to have 1 minute. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but Zeynep, let's listen to you tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to stop in 1 minute. If it's not, we would be able to listen to you in 1 minute. What is... we can finish it quickly. Alright, Zeynep, don't forget what you were going to say. Let's listen to you tomorrow. I'm going to talk to Cemil, and he will let you speak first. Thank you very much for the participation, everybody. We are in a very strict timetable, so thank you very much to all of you. We have a lot of great feedback. And we will continue tomorrow, and we will start with Zeynep tomorrow. Good evening to all of you, and for tomorrow's sessions, I will definitely be listening to the sessions, and we will also have an evaluation after the session. Thank you very much. Good evening.